Hello, all of you vaingloriously wonderful people. The Glitchwalkers expansion for Astroneer drops tomorrow, and in my spoiler-free review last week, I asked you to submit your questions about the game. You delivered, both in the comments and on Discord, so let's jump in and get your questions answered. There were a lot of questions, making this a long video, so I have included timestamps to let you jump to the questions you're most interested in. I'll be moving from the ones with the shortest answers to those with longer answers, and fair warning, there are a lot of spoilers in today's video. By the way, the final day to enter my giveaway for one of 5 copies of the Glitchwalkers DLC is tomorrow. Check out the video linked in the description and pinned comment to find out how to enter to win. Now, on to your questions. When does it come out? And what about Switch? Glitchwalkers releases on November 13th at 9 a.m. Pacific time on Steam, Xbox, and PlayStation. The Switch version will arrive soon, though as far as I know, a date has not been announced. How much is the Glitchwalkers DLC? In the US, it'll be $10. The game does have regional pricing, however, so the amount you pay in other countries will be different. There is also a deluxe version of the expansion that includes some cosmetics for $14.99. That's not a bad deal, because if you buy the expansion alone and decide you want the cosmetics later, they will cost $7 on their own. The cosmetics include this palette, visor, and mask. How many new planets are there? Only one. Joe from System Era mentioned that the new system could potentially have additional new planets in the future, but they have not announced if there is anything currently planned along those lines. Can I disable the DLC to play the base game while still owning the DLC? You can return to any of your base game saves and continue playing them as often as you wish. As far as I know, there is not a way to disable the DLC entirely, so storms will appear on most planets in your base game save. Will I have to replace all the stuff in my base with new stuff? We will talk more about new saves in a moment, but you cannot take anything from an existing base to the new planet. So yeah, once you arrive on the new planet, you will need to replace all your stuff. Are there new cosmetics or suits? Will Blitz's suit become a cosmetic? Yep, there are new cosmetics. As I mentioned a moment ago, there are some add-on cosmetics you can buy through the deluxe version or purchase them separately. But completing the expansion missions also unlocks a brand new suit, palette, and visor. Once you unlock it, you'll get to cosplay as Blitz, the antagonist of Glitchwalkers. How will multiplayer work if I own the expansion but my friend does not? If you are hosting the game and own the expansion, your friends can join you even if they do not own the expansion. They will be able to take part in the expansion gameplay loop while in your game, though if they are with you when all of the missions are completed, they will not receive the in-game rewards that come with the expansion. Will the expansion work on servers? At launch, the expansion content will not be supported on dedicated servers. Joe mentioned that he has a video coming explaining why, and it may even be out by the time this video goes live. They really wanted to have dedicated server support ready for launch, and they have it mostly solved, but it seems like they just didn't have enough time to get it completely ready. Can I create a custom game for the expansion? Right now, no, but System Era is planning on bringing both custom games and dedicated server support in post-launch updates. Will the limited time events be playable in the expansion? Currently, no. System Era has stated they did not want to gate limited time events behind a paid expansion, so those LTEs will still occur only in the base game. Are there any new hostile planets? No, though all of the existing ones are on Aeolas. On top of that, some of them can be quite hard to spot in certain areas as they take on characteristics of the surrounding environment. Tricky little buggers, yeah? Do shuttles work in the expansion? Yeah, they do, and the new planet, Aeolas, even includes numerous natural landing spots. You can't travel to any other planet in the shuttle, however, because, well, there aren't any. But you can fly from place to place on that one planet, which could come in handy if you need a resource that is really far away. What is different about the new shelter? The glitch shelter functions mostly the same as a regular shelter, featuring power cable plugs, an oxygenator that cannot be removed, and even a cool looking RTG built into its roof. Plus, it still creates a save when you enter it. But it also features a non-removable decipher and Frank's data log, both of which are used within the gameplay for the expansion. It also has a pair of medium storage slots and one small storage slot instead of just the 2 small storage slots on the regular shelter. Are all of the base game resources on the new planet? Yeah, they are, though you will have to adjust your expectations of where to find them. I'll try to include details on them in my full walkthrough video tomorrow, but every single resource is available on Aeolus. All of the atmospheric resources are available as well, though the atmospheric condenser does remain hacked and therefore unavailable for the first portion of the expansion gameplay. Once you unlock it, however, all gases are available at 100 ppU. You have never collected helium this fast. Are there new resources? This is a yes and no sort of answer. If you're thinking of resources like resin or lithium or laterite, then no, there aren't any new resources. You can use Ruby to collect 4 different types of storm data, but that is used in a very limited way when creating a portable decipher, along with the ability to use them in the research chamber. But that's really it. Will the DLC be free on Xbox Game Pass? I doubt it. And since my answer ties in with the next question, let's jump to that one. Will the DLC work if I haven't bought the base game, but play it via Game Pass? I couldn't test this one out for myself, as the key I received for Glitchwalkers was for Steam, but Joe did mention in a recent live stream that you will be able to buy the DLC and play it as long as you have access to Game Pass. Of course, since the base game is required to play the DLC, if you lose access to Game Pass, you will also lose access to the DLC. But given his wording, it sounds like the plan is for the DLC to be paid on Xbox and will not be offered for free via Game Pass. Exactly what has to be completed in the base game to access the DLC? Also, what are your thoughts on why they even made it this way? You must complete the mission, A Core Concept, before you can begin the handful of missions in the base game that lead to the expansion. So I guess that would mean you have to complete all of the other gateway related missions before that one as well. As to the second half of that question, Joe has mentioned that there were technical limitations surrounding tracking everything you had unlocked, created, or obtained in the base game. I suppose this technical limitation informed how they designed the gameplay loop and the decisions they made surrounding that. That is, of course, pure speculation. I haven't spoken with anyone at Systemair at length to really understand their decisions and what those limitations might have been. To be honest, I would prefer it if there were no requirements in the base game, since none of our progress there carries over into the expansion. They could have still included the base game missions that relate to the expansion as something optional, so that those without the expansion could still enjoy some new gameplay. Do the storms move? And what happens if one spawns at my base? These were 2 different questions, and the first part is another yes and no. The storms on Aeolus remain in a fixed location, and they kind of have to given how you interact with them. The hotspots you see swirling around inside of them do move quite frequently within the storm itself, however. The storms on the planets in the base game do seem to move from time to time, however. When I first started playing, I was next to a storm on Glacio and needed to leave the game for a few minutes. When I reloaded the game later, the storm wasn't there. I opened my compass to find it was on the other side of the planet. I was also capturing footage of the storm on Calidor, and as the sun rose, the storm dissipated and then vanished right in front of me. I haven't done any testing to see if there's a time limit for the storms in each location yet, but I hope to be able to spend some time soon figuring that out. Storms can appear on every planet except for Silva. So if your base is on Silva, you're safe. Beyond that, well, I did have a storm appear right next to my base. So close, in fact, part of it was swirling over the area I keep my shredder. When I reloaded the game later in the day, the storm had moved. So if one spawns at your base, give it time, it will eventually move on to a new location. In the meantime, it won't cause any issues with anything in your base. Will we have access to all the main game items in the research catalog? For the most part, yes. But this is some big spoiler stuff here. The research catalog still works mostly the same way, and everything from the base game is there. But you'll see that instead of items being either locked or unlocked, you begin your expansion adventure with most items in the research catalog as hacked. You could spend hours and days amassing research bytes, but you cannot use them to unlock a hacked item until you progress through the expansion. Almost the entire research catalog is eventually restored, a little bit at a time, so you can eventually unlock nearly everything again. You will see this in action in my complete walkthrough of Glitchwalkers tomorrow. The only items that remain permanently hacked and unavailable are the Exo Request platform used for limited time events, the Fault Finder, and the Probe Scanner. One nice thing about the research catalog in the expansion is that items that are usually unlocked through missions in the base game, such as the hoverboard, VTOL, and others, are unlocked with no byte cost once they are restored. Which I guess I should talk a bit more about how items become restored. As you'll see in my full walkthrough, the expansion basically unfolds in several phases. As you complete each phase, you not only make progress through the story and toward the end game, but you are also restoring a number of items in the research catalog. So getting schematics restored isn't something you do specifically, it is more of an included effect of working towards stopping Blitz's nefarious plans. Can I bring snails into the expansion? Sadly, no. I've talked about this in other ways, but absolutely none of your progress from the base game is available in the expansion. I really hope this changes in the future because I think this lack of continuity between your base game experience and the expansion is the biggest problem with this DLC. Are there new vehicles, platforms, or modules with the expansion? The expansion contains a few new items, with 3 of them being in the research catalog when in the expansion: the Vault Seeker, the Portable Decipher, and the Ruby. In the base game, the Ruby is the only new item in the research catalog. Beyond that, the Ruby allows you to gather storm data from the small hotspot vortices swirling about inside of the storms. The storm data is used in the gameplay loop of the expansion, but can also be used in the research chamber for bytes in both the base game and expansion saves. There is also the new glitch shelter that appears in the expansion, and while we cannot currently create it and use it in the base game, Joe from System Era did mention in a recent live stream that they would like to find a way to have that shelter available in the base game as well. I got the impression that maybe they just did not have time to finish that feature, and that should they add it via a later update, it will most likely be rewarded for completing the expansion, similar to how you unlock the pumpkin shelter in the yearly farm limited time event. You will also encounter some new puzzles, a new version of the Gateway Engine triptychs, and a few other random new items that are used in the gameplay for the expansion. But new shuttles, new rovers, new power producers, improved printers, bigger storage or platforms? Nope, there is none of that. I know that's going to be disappointing for some people, myself included, but I feel the devs really focused on the gameplay loop of the expansion instead of creating new stuff for our bases. Will Glitchwalkers have updates? I'm fairly confident we will see some hotfixes for some issues that popped up very close to the release date, so yeah, in a way there will be updates. In addition to other things such as enabling the glitch shelter in base game saves, I would suspect we will see future game updates that include changes or improvements for Glitchwalkers. But I suspect what you mean is, will additional new gameplay content be added into Glitchwalkers with later updates? The honest answer? I don't know. There hasn't been any mention of that, though Joe has dropped a few passing references to the possibility of adding new destinations to the Aeolus system. So while I'm sure it is something they have thought about, nothing has been discussed or confirmed publicly. The last I heard, though this was a couple of months ago, they do not have a clear roadmap for updates going into the new year. I get the impression that they are waiting to see how well Glitchwalkers performs in sales and concurrent players and all that before making any major decisions for future development. But there probably is a path that could see future updates bringing new gameplay to the expansion. We'll just have to wait and see if it happens. Will it always be its own instance of the simulation? Yeah, it will always be its own standalone thing. The reason why ties into my answer for the next question, so let's take a look at that. Do I need a new save? This has been the top question not only in the comments in my spoiler-free review, but also on Reddit, Discord, and everywhere else the expansion is being discussed. To be honest, the answer to this is both yes and no, and it is a little bit confusing at first, so stick with me because it takes a minute to explain this one. Hopefully, seeing this in action will make it clear. You can use your existing Astroneer save to kick things off for the expansion content, or you could start a new base game save. You do have to complete the mission or core concept before you can begin anything related to the expansion. That's the mission that requires you to activate the core of any planet in the base game. Once you've done that, you get a small mission chain that sends you into a storm, you do some stuff, and you eventually get the glitch portal anchor. When you deploy the anchor, it opens up a cool portal. When you go through the portal, a short cutscene plays, and you are then dumped into a new menu. This is where it can get confusing, but pay close attention to that menu. See that line near the top, Travel to Silva System? Yeah, that is a clue that you are looking at a brand new save for the expansion. If you look at the background, you will also notice you are not seeing the usual starting menu. You can start a new adventure or new creative game from this menu, and that will take you to the new planet and into the actual gameplay loop of the expansion. If you select Travel to Silva System, that is the base game menu. And when you're on that base game menu, there is a similar entry at the top to travel to the Aeolus system. You can still keep playing in your existing save and have some interaction with storms on planets in the Silva system. But if you want to play the actual expansion gameplay, you have to be in the Aeolus menu, and that gameplay takes place in its own save. And since this is a new save in the new system, none of your progress from your existing save carries over to the expansion save. The only exception to this is the cosmetics you may have unlocked through missions or limited time events. Those are still available. Otherwise, you are starting a brand new adventure. All of the bytes you collected in the base game, the 2000 nanocarbon alloy you made in the base game, even the hundreds of QTRTGs you collected from going beast mode on limited time events in the base game, yeah, none of that is available in the expansion save. I know, it's confusing. It gets even more confusing because all of your saves are available in both menus. You will see a Glitchwalkers icon next to the expansion saves, so that should help some. But I think it is going to create even more confusion for people by having all saves of all type in one big list, regardless of which menu you're in. If you are hoping to easily travel between the Silva System planets in your existing saves, and then on to the new planet from the expansion, you just cannot do it. They exist in entirely separate saves. I suppose the TLDR version is, you will need a new expansion save to play the expansion content, but you can still go back and keep playing in your existing saves. What do you think the replayability of it will be compared to just replaying the original? I think this might be the best question asked so far because replayability is an important thing for a lot of gamers. In my walkthrough tomorrow, you will see that there are not a lot of missions. You are, essentially, repeating the gameplay loop 3 times, though with increasing difficulty, until you get to the end game. Between some game time during playtest weekends over the past few months, as well as during the most recent preview, I have started 5 new saves. And my most recent playthrough was the most enjoyable simply because I felt I had a better grasp on how to work my way through the expansion with as little friction as possible. That allowed me to pay better attention to the world around me and take in the full experience instead of being hyper-focused on the task at hand. So the more I have played it, the more I have enjoyed it. Will that carry over long term though? I'm not entirely certain. Given the limited scope of the expansion storyline, there aren't a lot of missions and they will always play out in the same order each time. That stands out from the base game quite a bit. Yeah, the base game has a ton of missions to complete, but you can take them on in varying order with each playthrough, or even completely ignore them. If you want to skip the missions in the base game and just build out a huge automation setup, you can do that. In the expansion, that is not really possible since most of the items in the research catalog are locked. I can see how that could wear out its welcome. There is one aspect toward replayability where I think the expansion will really shine, and it was inspired by the next comment. I'm not personally a lore/story player. Okay, I know this isn't a question, but it did make me think about what the expansion offers a player who isn't really keen on story progression. This same comment mentioned their massive stores of in-game resources, and I think the expansion has massive potential for this player. Here's why. Once you have completed the story of the expansion, almost everything in the research catalog is restored, and you are on a huge planet that contains every single resource available in the game. Currently, in the base game, if you want to go nuts with automating everything, you either have to fall back on transporting resources from planet to planet, or you have to rely on heavy utilization of the trade platform. But since Aeolus has every resource, including all of the atmospheric resources, we can finally set up the ultimate automation facilities that allows us to create quite literally every in-game resource in one location. And I had to pick a cutoff point or else this video would have gone for hours. If you asked a question but did not see it answered here in the video, don't worry, I got you. As soon as this video goes live, I'll jump into the comment section and post replies to any question that did not get answered in the video. Plus, I think my walkthrough coming tomorrow will answer a ton more questions, as you get to see pretty much the entirety of the expansion gameplay. So be sure to check that one out. Thank you to everyone who submitted questions. I could not have created this video without you. Don't forget, you can still enter to win one of 5 copies of Glitchwalkers that I will be giving away. Entries end at the end of the day on the 13th, so do not miss out on this chance to win it. Check out the video linked in the description and the pinned comment to find out how to enter. I'll be back tomorrow with my full walkthrough of the Glitchwalkers expansion. But until then, I'm Brandon, reminding you to stay vainglorious.